Hey, difference maker, it's Kirby. I hope you're well. I am coming to you today from a very hot Brisbane, and I'm just going to make sure, yeah, your microphone's the correct microphone. It is like 6 billion degrees outside today. It's probably not 6 billion degrees, but I want to talk to you about something that I was talking about with my accountability partner this morning. And it's actually the biggest mistake that I've made in business, and I want to share it with you because I think it is extraordinarily relevant now. I think it is more relevant today than it's probably ever been, and I think that if you can get this right, it will completely change the way you go about your business, right? And first of all, let me tell you what the big mistake is, and then let me tell you what I would do to resolve this big mistake, right? And what I have done to resolve this big mistake. So, I have been in business now for what feels like 6,000 years, but it's not. Like it's coming up to 5 years, I think, for us. And say hello if you're jumping on. I have my comments screen open today, so I can see you. And I think the big mistake that I've realized that I made inadvertently, and I'll tell you why I made it too, is that I would go through these periods of showing up, much the same like I am now, and then I would just disappear off the map. All right. And the reason for that, I think, on reflection, and I'd love your thoughts on this, by the way, for your business, is that I just got scared of what it meant for me to show up more and have more people look at me and have more people want to talk to me. And I probably did, hey, Cody, I probably didn't feel worthy of having that attention. All right. So this is a belief thing. Hey, Kaufman. Um, and so to give you a story, a bit of a backstory, about 2 years ago, we had two videographers following me around all week. Mira and Kay, for anyone who's been around in my world long enough, you probably know these guys. You can actually go back on my videos and on YouTube and look up The Journey, and you'll see all of the episodes that are released. We did 14 blogs or 14 vlogs during that time, and I was like prolific with content then. I was online at least every day. I had a Facebook group with 1,000 people in it who were all in my exact target market. And I used to go live every Friday there and do a training for them. We were releasing somewhere between 40 and 60. Hi, Kathy. 40 and 60 pieces of content per week. Now, this is going back like 2 years. And that is a lot of content 2 years ago. Now, what happened was I basically sabotaged myself and stopped it. And at the time, my business was doing extraordinarily well. You've heard me talk about this before. Like, we were making more income than we've ever made. I was working harder than I'd ever worked, though, as well, and traveling more than I'd ever traveled. And I think that that I sabotaged it because I was fearful of the imposter syndrome. Like, that really kicked in for me at that stage, and I was like, shit, if I'm like really showing up here, people are going to find out that I don't know what I'm talking about. Which is absolutely crazy to think back on that now, a couple of years down the line. But I know you've probably felt that too, where you feel like, who are you to do the work? Who are you to have the people follow you? But also, who are you not to have that, right? And so, I sabotaged it. I didn't turn up online for a long time. I went really quiet on social media, and everyone commented on it. Even my mum said, hey, son, I haven't seen you on social media much recently. And she said something that's really stuck with me. She said, son, you can't sell a secret. How are they going to know you exist if you don't show up? Which is really good advice, right? Mums always have the best advice, usually. So, let me know if this has been a problem for you, by the way. If you've felt like this and it's forced you to not do something, or it's caused you to not take action based on your belief, or based on the imposter syndrome, as I call it. The fraudulent syndrome that we are no good and we shouldn't be doing this. So that was like 2 years ago. Now, fast forward a bit, and then I thought, you know what, that's all right. I can have another crack. And so I did it again. And I turned up for a few more weeks and did some weekly videos and did some things. Did lots of quote cards, started pushing out the podcast. And then I did the exact same thing. My belief got in the way, and I was like, who am I to help coaches? And I started to be the Eeyore in the story. And I started to like disrespect my ability and hide it from the world. And so I just disappeared off the map again. And it was only from going to Dallas last week, and a couple of weeks before that, I did a training down in Byron Bay for a good friend. And I was like, who am I kidding? Like, why am I hiding this stuff? Like, why am I not just showing up and just owning who I am and just going for it? And the people who want to stick around will stick around, and the people who don't won't. All right? And I think there's a bit of fear in not being accepted. And then you think, well, if I go and send an email to my list and they unsubscribe, then I'll feel like I'm not good enough, or that my content's not good enough. And maybe that justifies that feeling of the imposter syndrome even further. And that's what really stopped me from turning up more and more. But I want to tell a little story as well. And the story is this. Every time that I've shown up more, by some sort of crazy miracle, more people want to talk to me. Now, I know that's crazy, right? That as a coach, you would want people to talk to you because that's how you make money, because you want to be able to help people, right? And you cannot build a business without sales. You can be the best at marketing. You can write the books. I've done it. You can put them on Amazon and get the bestseller badge, and still you can be the best kept secret. You can have the podcasts, but if they're at the bottom of the charts because they've got no content on them, or if your page is not being seen, or if your emails aren't being read because you're not writing them, well, guess what? You ain't going to make any money. And you can't sustain your message, you can't sustain your mission if you haven't got any money in the bank. And I know this is like one of those conversations where people say, yeah, but Kirby, I'm not in it for the money. I could say that I'm not in it for the money, but that would be marginally a lie, because I have to make money to support my family. And I've got beautiful things I want to do with my family. And I can't do that if I don't have clients. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. Like, don't get caught up in this bullshit you're telling yourself about it makes you bad to want money. Money is a necessary vehicle to enjoy experiences. So anyway, so fast forward a bit. I was thinking about this morning, and I thought about my flight back from the US. And I was on a really big plane, and I was telling my accountability buddy this, who's actually watching this right now. So hello, Amanda. About the power that it takes to get one of those planes off the ground. And if you've ever been on a big plane, like I'm talking like an A380 or a 747, I'm a bit of an AV geek, by the way. Just a little secret. I do love airplanes, which is, you know, little thing you might not have known about me. I'm fascinated by the concept of flight. Anyway, that was random fact. Where was I going with that? I do that all the time. I just lose my track of thought. So anyway, so I'm on this plane. If you've ever been on a big plane, you know how long it takes, right? So what they do, they got you on the runway, and you hear the engines rev up, and they're like, when they're roaring, these engines, and you look outside the window, and it looks like you're not even going anywhere. You're just slowly rolling. And business is a lot like that. Business is a lot like that, where you're putting out like extraordinary amounts of energy, extraordinary amounts of content, extraordinary amounts of yourself and your heart and your soul and your purpose, and you don't feel like you're going anywhere. You don't feel like you're getting any traction. And you got to think about it like this. So if we reverse a step and think about how it really works when you fly a plane, if you want to do it well, first things first, you have to tell people where the hell you're going. And that's the biggest mistake I made, was that I didn't clearly say, hey, if you're a coach and you want to fill your calendar, I can help you with that. I was kind of dilly-dallying around and being like, oh, I don't really do a bit of this and I don't really do a bit of that. Just tell people the destination. Tell people the destination. That's the first thing an airline has to do before it can sell a seat. Because if imagine if it was like the mystery flight, you know, very few people would like the uncertainty of that. People like to know where you're going to take them. So that's the first lesson from a business. You have to, first of all, put up on the board, this is where this flight's going to go. The second thing you have to do is you have to fill the plane one passenger at a time. And you have to do your relevant checks. You have to make sure they're approved to be on that plane. They have to have paid the ticket. They have to have the correct documentation. And in the business sense, what that might be is that they are the right kinds of people to be on your plane. Too many times, I have let the wrong people on my flight. And it doesn't make for a very fun flight because you're stuck in the air with them for quite a long time in some cases when you're coaching people. So you have to make sure you got the right passengers on board. Here's the other thing. You got to wait for them all to get on the plane and put their bags away and stuff. It takes time to do this. You're not just going to say, hey, I'm going to this destination. Let's all jump on board. It ain't going to happen for you. So you have to take your time and you have to be mindful and be aware that there's a period of boarding for your business where you tell people what you're up to, and then the plane has to wait until it's full before you can start the journey, right? So, hey Maddie, hey Kathy, hey everyone, good to see you all on here. So you have to be patient, and that patience for me comes down to this concept that I'm talking about, and the biggest mistake that I made, which is that you have to turn up. You got to show up for the gun show. Like, if you don't show up, you can't be seen. You are a secret, and if you're a secret, you're going to get frustrated thinking that everyone's doing better than you. And I know this stuff because guess what? I am this person. Like, I am talking to you because I've been through this experience multiple times. And if there's day 1 for you, or day 30 for you, or day 90 for you in your business, you're probably feeling a bit of this already. It ain't going to go away unless you start to get comfortable with it. And just even doing these daily lives is an amazing way for me to keep pushing through and resolving that resistance that I'm feeling of not being good enough. And I think for me, hey Chris, for me, you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It's such a cliche saying, but the most important part of that is you have to be comfortable to share your message and what you stand for. And you have to be okay that might pull some people away from your mission. Some people that you might have relied upon, some clients that you may be like comfortable with. You know, I've had big corporate clients that we don't work with anymore because they saw me going on this mission. And I got to be honest, it absolutely sucked to not have that client anymore. It really hurt our cash flow. It hurt what we were able to achieve as a family. It put us into some situations we weren't used to being in. But all of that should have been easy for me to handle if I had been aware that I was changing the direction of the plane and I was talking about a new destination. But I was blasé and I didn't think about this stuff, and that's why I'm sharing it with you now. Okay? Now, Chris just made a really good point there as well. He said you got to land the plane, right? Now, here's the deal. Let's say you take off this plane and you've worked hard and you've done your content and you've asked the right questions, you've got the right passengers on the plane, and you know you can fly the plane to where they want to go. You're the captain of the ship, captain of the plane, right? You know the destination. You've either been there before or you know how to get there. That's coaching, right? In a lot of ways, or training or consulting, whatever term you want to give yourself. But think about the energy it takes to get the plane up. Think about all the energy you're exerting to get that plane moving on the runway, and then you get liftoff. The last thing you want to do is stop. The last thing you want to do is say, that's too much. It's too much energy. I'm going to switch off the engines now, because guess what happens? You're going to have a plane crash. And again, I've done it. I've done this like 2 or 3 times. I've been around this loop, and I'm pretty sure I've learned the lesson now well enough that I got to keep my engines going. Because if you turn them off, it ain't fun for anyone. The passengers don't like it when you take them back to the airport and you don't get them to the destination. If you keep looping back, they're going to say, you know what, this flight takes too long. And they're going to go and find a new captain. And that captain should be you. You deserve to have people in your world that you can help. You deserve to be able to share your message. And you deserve to be able to have the ability to serve on one condition. That you get in the plane and you fly the bloody thing. You can't sit in the airport terminal looking at the plane on the tarmac and going, I'm disappointed that the plane's not flying. Go and switch the engines on. Go and fill the thing. Go and tell people where you're going. You can't expect people to jump on the plane and them to fly it for you. It ain't going to happen. Gone are the days of doing the little Facebook post and saying, hey everyone, I do this thing, and everyone flooding to you, because guess what? There's 6 billion other people competing for the eyeballs of your ideal market right now. So you got to fly the plane, you know? And I just see that so many times that for me personally, I forgot to fly the plane. I waited and waited and waited and waited for the thing to happen, and it never happened because I didn't take control of the journey. You have to be the one that takes control of the journey, all right? Never turn it off, Amanda says. That's exactly right. That's a big lesson that I learned from Amanda when we were in Dallas. She said it to me so many times, like, don't turn off your funnels. Just keep going. So it's a good lesson, all right? Where was I going with that? So anyway, yeah, it's your flight, it's your plane, and it's up to you to drive it or to fly it. And it's up to you to tell people the destination. And it's up to you to wait long enough and be patient enough to fill the plane with the right kinds of passengers and say no to the passengers who aren't right for your journey. Or the people who say, hey, I don't want to pay for my airfare. This is my big mistake as well. I gave way too much away. My old assistant said to me, last year. She said, Kirby, why do you do so many free phone calls? And I used to have this thing where I'd say, oh, I do it because I care. I do it because I love this. And you know what? Yes, I do love it. And yes, I do care. But guess what? Last time I went to my bank and I said, hey, here's a bucket full of love. Can you put this in my bank account? They laughed at me. So don't get caught in the trap of giving yourself away. I have been caught in that trap. It is not fun because it's bloody hard to climb out of when people think you're not worth anything. So don't be the cheap airline. Be the premium carrier. Be the person that gives the best service, that gives the most care, that gets people there safely, that gives people a clear map, that takes the time and attention and opportunity to educate and serve well. And that will give you the reputation that you need if you want to make a massive difference in the world and you want to do it sustainably for a long time. In my opinion, that's the only way to do it. And I've tried all the other ways, I can tell you. Like, I keep mentioning this bookshelf behind me here. I've got so many books on there telling me what you should and shouldn't do in business. 99% of what's on that bookshelf is bullshit if you don't get this right. Because you can have the best strategy, but if the thing between your ears is telling you no, pointless. And you're just making them more money by you sitting and procrastinating. You don't need to buy another course to tell you how to do the stuff that you already know. You just got to get into action. You got to turn the engines on, people. All right? So that's what I want to kind of share with you today. Let me just check the comments here, see if anyone's got anything nice that they want answered. How do you know where to draw the line on the free gives? That's a great question, Amanda. It's going to be different for every individual. I think for me, anything that gives people guidance for their next step should be free. Like, because I think information's pretty easy to get. You can go on YouTube and find it. So your free angle should always be what's the relevant next step for the client. That's me anyway. I think that the best obvious thing is that you have to deliver value to get them in your world. The best way to deliver value is to give value in advance of actually saying, hey, here's something that works, go try it and actually have it work for someone. When that happens, then they're going to trust you more. They're going to like you. They're going to say, actually, this person's not full of crap. They know what they're talking about. And so maybe we should look at their next step. And then obviously that then leads to a sales conversation, which guess what? You're going to have to get comfortable with that too. You're going to have to get comfortable with asking people for money and saying, hey, this is actually worth X amount of money. And I'm going to need you to stump up for that if you want to join me on the plane. You know, you can give someone a map to the airport. You can even draw them a picture of your plane and you can give them a tour of the cockpit. But that thing ain't leaving the ground without them buying the ticket, people. That's the way you got to look at it. So give people the logical next step in their process. And the easiest way to do that is just to literally get a piece of paper, scratch it out, and just say, this is where they are today. This is where they want to be. If I was to say what would be the very first thing they'd have to do before they could achieve their outcome, what would it be? That needs to be your lead magnet. That needs to be your hook. Give you an example. If I was teaching people how to do this thing that I'm teaching you now, of how to get the right people on the plane, well, the obvious thing is, like, who do you want on the plane? So I could give people a template that they could answer, some questions that they could answer, which would get them really clear on their dinner date client of the person they want on that flight. Beyond that, they're like, well, now how do we get that person? Well, maybe that's joining me for a webinar, or maybe that's buying a book, or maybe that's, you know, joining a basic course or some basic coaching to walk them through that next step of the process. So that's really how I think about what to offer for free. And I think it works really well. So Kathy says she loves the plane analogy. Thank you, Kathy. I came up with that this morning when I was on the phone to Amanda, and I wrote it on my piece of paper. So, you know, we got to do the work too, right? I don't just wake up in the morning and go, I'm going to talk about the airplane analogy, because that's not how it works. You know, you got to do the action. You got to do the work. So I'm going to go now. I've waffled on a bit, but I really hope this has been a helpful discussion for you today, and I hope that has been thought-provoking for you as always. And I just want you guys to realize that you can do this, and I want to give you the tools to do that. And if you got any questions, drop them in the comments. And do me a favor, if you enjoy this content, can you do me a favor and hit share? You know how bloody hard it is to get people to see this stuff? So hit the share button and say some nice words and say, hey, Kirby made a great analogy about a plane today. And so I would love it if you could hit share and stick around and make sure you set the notification so you see me here again on Monday, because it is Friday here in Australia and I've got the weekend off with my kids. So good to see you all on. Thanks for all of your comments. It's awesome to see some people on here live. Thanks for all of you guys in the US, Amanda and Chris and Kathy, and who else have I got on here? Maddie, thanks for being on. Hope your triathlon went well. Cody, thanks for being on, mate. I hope you're well. I am very well. Thanks for asking. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Have a great night if you're in the US. Have a great day if you're in Australia. I'll see you on Monday. See you guys.